Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MSU Wealth Management Association podcast, a show where two Michigan State students take turns interviewing financial advisors and other professionals in the wealth management industry to figure out if a career in the financial planning space is right for them. I'm Justin Halverson, a senior finance major at Michigan State and the current president of MSU WMA. Our guest today is Colin Overweg. Colin is the founder of Advise Wealth Management, a fee-only registered investment advisory firm. He is also the youngest board member currently serving on the board for the Financial Planning Association of Michigan, where he serves as the Next Gen chair. Colin got his bachelor's of finance from Michigan State University and also currently holds the CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation.
Colin, thanks for being here.
Hey, Justin, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you on today. So what we're trying to do here is just figure out why an MSU student would want to be a financial advisor. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Did you always want to be somebody involved in finance and in the wealth management field?
I think what's cool about the financial planning space, even if you decide not to do that as a profession, is just how applicable it is. I mean, whether you have an interest in money or not, I promise it has an interest in you. Money touches every part of our life, whether you're really charitably inclined or not at all, or trying to promote business or whatever your field of interest is. You're probably going to have a paycheck. You're going to have expenses where you're going to potentially have a mortgage someday or a car loan or paying down some type of debt, student loans, you name it. And being knowledgeable in that area, whether you're an expert or not, really attracted me. I'm kind of a practical guy, and that really caught my interest right from an early age. Someone got talking to me about how they made, $50 in the stock market. I think they had like an E-Trade or Fidelity account. And I was just blown away that you could be making money while you're not necessarily using your hours in the day to grow your wealth. And I was really hooked ever since. And kind of the curiosity just really led me down the finance path.
That's awesome. So like when you came into MSU, it sounds like you already had an idea. So you were a finance major when you were at Michigan State?
I did. Yep. I graduated with a finance degree. Really didn't know a whole lot about the wealth management space and all the different areas involved. But I just knew that I wanted to get involved in something that I could apply to my own life, and had a couple of connections. My uncle was in kind of the insurance space, a little bit on the health insurance side, but still talked a little bit about wealth management. So was always picking his brain and kind of understanding, how he got involved and the type of clients he's working with. And it was kind of a good connection to make, because the company that he worked for was looking for at the time a junior advisor, and was able to kind of get my foot in the door. And basically through a number of conversations, they told me, hey, if you can get your Series 7 and 66 and some of those licensed, then you might have a job. So senior year, I really got to work and was able to pass those designations. And the Monday after I walked on graduation, was in the office and honestly starting to make some of those cold calls, man.
Oh man, yeah, that's the name of the game, isn't it? Making those calls, making those connections, all the networking opportunities. That's awesome to hear. So you had the Series 7 and 66. Is that what you said when you coming right out of school?
Yep, coming right out of school. Those were the licenses that I had to get in order to be able to sell products for the broker dealer that I was working for. So yeah, that was really the start to the kind of the path that I've chosen.
That's awesome. So if a student was interested, an MSU student coming out of school, making sure that they're hitting the ground running in the field, would you recommend they get the Series 7, Series 66, or is there anything else you'd recommend an MSU student should be doing to make sure they hit the ground running?
Well, Justin, that's probably a more loaded question than maybe what you are expecting. And the reason is because at the time, I didn't know this when I was getting my designations, was that there's really kind of two fundamental areas in wealth management. You can go down the broker dealer space, or you can go down the registered investment advisory space, the RIA space. And the broker dealer space really was founded upon product sales. So, back in the good old days, like even pre-internet, in order to get financial products or to buy stocks, you literally had to call a broker. And back then, that's how you receive your commission, is that you'd go and sell those stocks. I mean, we've all seen Wolf of Wall Street, those guys making commissions, selling stocks. And that's really where the industry started, is product sales. And then what started to happen is this beautiful thing, the internet allowed us to go out and buy these products themselves. So then what broker dealers started to do is shift to say, okay, well, we don't just sell products. Now we're going to sell you a beautiful diversified portfolio of products. And, every broker dealer and their brother has a proprietary mutual fund or a product that is, of course, super flashy and is going to do all these great things. And that space, honestly, is still existing today. It has morphed dramatically. And now we can throw the advisor or the representative or whatever tag that you want to put behind your name here. And then these broker dealers have even gotten smarter to understand that advice is really where the value is held. But what's funny is that on the RIA side, the registered investment advisor side, advice has always been the name of the game. So when I got started, I spent the first 4 years of my career in the broker dealer space, where I was working for a broker dealer. I was selling some of their proprietary products. They were receiving a piece of the commission I was making, and life was good there. But the problem is that these broker dealers need to make money. And if you start giving advice or counsel on products that they don't sell or manufacture or maybe recommend, well, you're going to start butting heads with the hand that feeds you. So what I actually did is, after a few years in this space, is decided to go down my own path, and I started my own registered investment advisor. So I file directly with FINRA and the SEC, my paperwork and my legal documentation. And I actually since then have dropped my Series 7 and 66, because those are really licensed to basically to allow you to sell products. So the only registration, well, that's actually more the Series 7, excuse me. But so the only designation I carry right now is the CFP.
That's great. MSU CFP program, I know that's how I first got into it. It's so important for people to understand what the difference is between like a fee-only RIA firm and the traditional brokerage. I mean, I'm pretty sure my parents don't really even quite understand the difference. So it's important distinction.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel terrible for consumers out there. Everyone has a name tag, financial advisor. So, how can you determine? I didn't even know it, 2-3 years into the industry. I had no idea what the differences were. No one was ever teaching or talking about what fee only was. That's really started to take off in the last few years as, the fiduciary word and some other buzzwords have started to become more popular in the finance services industry.
So, I guess you could almost say, to play devil's advocate to the fee-only side, do you think there's still room for the traditional broker-dealer model in the world of finance? So maybe another way to ask that is, could you define what financial planning and wealth management is in your own words? Is there a difference between the sales side and the advice side?
Absolutely. So I do believe that there's a area for both. And I also don't believe that fee-only advisors are holier than thou and that commission is evil by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, we need products out there like life insurance, long-term care insurance in some cases, disability insurance in some cases. These are still really important tools to leverage. And it's actually, in my opinion, the fee-only world has maybe swung the pendulum a little bit too far, because I know a lot of fee-only advisors out there that maybe aren't able to implement some of the recommendations because they aren't willing to talk about some of these commissionable products. So, I think that there is an area for both. I think probably the best model is maybe somewhere in the middle. I personally have chosen to become fee only for my firm, just so that I think as of right now in 2020, that's one of the only ways to kind of distinct yourself as a advice first practitioner. And so I really try to make myself agnostic as to which products we're going to use. I don't care if we're using BlackRock, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, Fidelity. I literally have no preference as to what funds we're using. And I try to make that a very, very, very clear. But that doesn't mean that just because you're associated with one of those firms in the broker-dealer space or the RIA custodian space, doesn't mean you can't do great work for your clients. So I'm not here to bash anyone by any stretch. I think there's great advisors at bad firms and bad advisors at great firms. So at the end of the day, I think developing that trust with your clients and educating the general public on what questions to ask. How are you compensated? What designations do you have? And making sure that your interests are aligned with the client.
Yeah, that's so important. You mentioned that word trust. You want to be that trusted advisor that they come to first, right? Before the CPA, before the attorney, before everybody else. So yeah, that's so important. So you spent time on both sides. You've been in the broker space. You now have started your own firm, which is awesome. That is very cool to hear. For anybody who's like entrepreneurial, Colin's the guy to talk to. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about what the differences are between working for a firm as an advisor and being the only advisor at a firm? So what should a student, if they want to do the entrepreneurial route, what should they be thinking about if they want to, maybe follow in your footsteps, so to speak?
Sure. Great question. And Justin, I would really recommend people to do a little soul searching before they decide to embark on their own path. I honestly, if in hindsight, if I would have been able to maybe take some of my own advice that I give college students now of reaching out to your heroes, finding people in the space that you look up to, reading their books. And I probably would have gone and worked at some of these awesome RIAs that are doing amazing work. But back in when I made that decision to go off on my own, I really wasn't using my resources to connect with other advisors. And I unfortunately think that that's kind of a little bit of the, in some light, a broker-dealer mentality where, it's almost a zero-sum game. If Justin makes a sale, then, he took a little bit from what I could have done. And I know that's not true for all BDs, but in the RIA space, it seems to be a little bit more of, hey, you're on the right side of the advice business, and we want to see everyone succeed. And there's so many different niches involved that you could be working with someone that maybe you wouldn't even want to, another advisor wouldn't even want to deal with. So I found that to be a lot more collaborative, but to give anyone recommendation on going down the path of entrepreneurship is to buckle up your seatbelt and get ready to wear a lot of different hats. Because yes, you have to be a really good financial planner to the point that you can really go out and sell yourself and talk about your services, because I see all kinds of great advisors out there. But if you're not able to communicate in your message and explain your value, you could be the best advisor in the world, but if you're not selling and able to communicate your message, you're not helping anybody. And you're going to be a really hungry financial planner, not working with anyone. So I don't think that it's really for everyone. And, even to expand on that, I have to wear the marketing hat, the compliance hat, the sales hat, following up with clients, so there's so many different areas that it can become really overwhelming, and you can be dropping some balls. So there's some danger to going down your own path. And if you're in the working at a large firm, you can really just focus on becoming the best financial planner that you can be, or becoming the best investment manager, or the best at one thing. And I would highly recommend someone to maybe take that route prior to trying to be an expert in multiple different areas. I actually even had to create my own website and all that stuff. And oh my gosh, it was one little line item on my to-do list. But then once you start diving into it, it's like, oh my gosh, are you going to use Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, WordPress? Are you going to hire it out? Are you going to do it yourself? It just becomes really overwhelming really quick.
The website, it never ends too. I had to do that for the club. I know, and yeah, you get it. It changes every day. I feel like every week you're updating it. You want to add something else. So that's yeah, I feel your pain on that one. Do you think that somebody who wanted to go into business for themselves in this industry has to be maybe like a certain kind of temperament? Do you think that they have to possess certain kind of qualities? So when you're talking about soul searching, if you reflected and did a little bit of that searching and decided that you do want to go into business for yourself, you mentioned communication, but is there any kind of like hierarchy of needs or anything else besides the communication that these entrepreneurs should be focusing on?
Yeah, I think probably having to pick your battles, right? Maybe even if you are more of the introverted and, you want to be the brains behind the outfit, maybe you do have to partner up with someone to be more on the sales side. Or maybe if you're like me and you want to make friends with everyone and more on the communication side, then maybe you have to find someone to help you on the back end. So what I've done in that area is that I've actually outsourced the investment management. I love investments. I love rebalancing. I love tax loss harvesting and understand the intricacies that go into it. But the problem is that there's so much layered on top of it. Who's going to send out the client reports? Who's going to do the billing? Who's going to do all the different pieces that are involved with the investment management? So I actually go ahead and found an outsource or a way to outsource that to a third party that is managing billions of dollars for thousands of clients, and I'm able to just throw my label on the front page there and be able to harness and hold that kind of in-house, but still not having to work on it every single day. So I think probably picking what you're going to be doing yourself and what you're able to outsource and kind of start to build your teams, whether that team is an individual or it's a piece of technology or SaaS or an IPA or all the above. That's really important for you to start figuring out and building together.
And it's so important to start early, right? Because how do you know what you like until you actually go in and do it and figure out what it takes and how much effort is involved? So yeah, that got to wear the different hats. That's the name of the game in this industry, seems like. So stepping back generally, if there was a student who's interested in financial planning, so maybe let's think of like a freshman or sophomore, somebody who's just learning about what this is there anything that you would let them know? It doesn't matter if they want to go entrepreneurial, but just anything basically about the industry to any incoming finance students.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is staying curious and building out that network. So I mentioned finding your heroes and following them on social media, following their websites. It is incredible what you can learn from podcasts and from blogs and from YouTube videos by some of these incredible minds that are just putting this content out from some of their life work for free. I use social media, in my opinion, probably until the last year or two, almost the wrong way. Or if you want to create a second account, which I've done in a lot of platforms like Instagram and Twitter, where I don't follow my friends. I don't care what my friends are doing on the weekend on these platforms. I try to keep it a news media outlet that I can cultivate, and I can and I don't care what my follower to following ratio is, or if I look cool or anything like that. Like my Twitter, my business Twitter is my news feed, and it is just surrounded me with really, really smart minds. And I can't believe some of the conversations I've been able to get involved in and some of the connections that I've made by just starting to put myself in those networks. So that's probably the area that I wish that I would have done better in, and would recommend someone as young as a freshman or sophomore who is just trying to understand and learn as much as they can. I would say, yes, you're going to be drinking from a fire hose, but if you're able to start to follow and see some of those individuals who are successful in the space, even if you don't want to become them, just understanding how they got there, what they're doing to stay successful is really, really cool. And I think giving yourself some grace. This is a long path ahead, right? I mean, if you're a lifelong learner and you have that mindset, you're not trying to learn to necessarily get ahead just to the next step. When you're going to look back over a 5-year period and be completely baffled by what you're able to accomplish by just being curious and having fun with it.
I know myself, when I walked on MSU's campus, there was no way you told me if I was going to get into the finance program or wealth management, I would have told you you're kidding. There's no way that's me. And 2 years later, look where we are, look what we're doing. So that's great to hear. So Colin, thanks so much for being on today. Lastly, I just want to open the floor to you. We learned a lot. It's very insightful, but is there anything else we didn't cover that you would like to say to any student who's thinking about pursuing this as a career path?
Financial planning is a really special area. I mentioned it on the opening line that even if you end up not choosing it as a career, you are going to learn some really, really impactful and useful knowledge that you can use on a day-to-day basis. So I highly recommend, even if it's if you're going into medicine and you're just looking for an extra class, I would, instead of picking that golf class like I chose, maybe go ahead and jump into a finance course and don't care about your grades. Really just try to learn and just enjoy it and be curious and make some friends in that area. And every person that you bump into is a potential lifelong colleague, but maybe a future employer or employee or business partner. So just sustaining those connections and trying to learn for the sake of learning and not for the sake of grades.
Awesome. Colin Overweg, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Justin. Thanks for doing this. This is really, really cool. I wish we would have gotten something like this off the ground when I was in school. So props to you.
Hey, thanks, man. COVID has closed doors, but it's opened others. So we will see.
That's the correct mindset.
If you like what you heard today, hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. The MSU Wealth Management Association is a student group at Michigan State aimed at training the next generation of financial advisors. For more information, check out our website, msuwma.com. See you guys next week.